there's certain bloodlines that have a hybrid nature. You know, people say shape-shifting's impossible because you can't go from a solid body to a solid body. No, you can't. But that's not what's happening. If I'm looking at you now, your body is basically a field of information. And as we talked about earlier, my biological computer, just like Wi-Fi and computers, is reading and decoding that field of information into a reality of a physical body, ear. Who I am. I'm not human, that's an experience. No, I'm not subject to some judgmental God. I am infinite awareness. That expansion of self-identity automatically expands you into these other levels of awareness, beyond the walls of the matrix, beyond the manipulation, beyond the control of perception and the manipulation of perception. And suddenly, that's what's going on. You see it. And you see it because you've tapped into that level that is beyond the manipulation. The power of suggestion is immense. If enough people tell you the same thing, and well, everybody knows that, mate. It's amazing how that impacts upon your perceptions, as it did with COVID. So in the run-up to the moon landings, Kubrick, who was considered Jay Weiner was saying as the best special effects guy of the time. It was still shite, but it was the best of his time.
Space Odyssey, Annie.
Well, this is the point.
Or he done it after. Sorry.
2001: A Space Odyssey was done in the run up to the moon landings and was used as a cover to fake the moon landings. So what Jay Weiner does in this video, you can still get it on the internet, is he looks at the filming special effects techniques of 2001: A Space Odyssey, and then he looks at the techniques of what we used in the so-called moon landings. They're exactly the frickin' same. You know, where you have a studio come down and meet the floor. Well, if you leave it, you're going to see the wall meet the floor.
Oh, yeah. When you watch it, it stinks that it's not real now. When you watch it.
So what he did in 2001: A Space Odyssey, he always covered that line. If you look at the moon landings, that same line is covered in exactly the same way as 2001: A Space Odyssey. Now, according to Weiner, Stanley Kubrick did the fake moon landings on the understanding that from that point he could direct any film he wanted without editing, right? Without the studio editing it and telling him what it could go in and couldn't. Okay. So eventually he does Eyes Wide Shut, which includes, of course, a satanic ritual, which is far more gruesome than was displayed, but there you go. And by the way, interestingly, he the mansion used in the where the ritual took place is a Rothschild mansion, or is
Red Shield,
massively connected to the Rothschilds. So anyway, what he describes is how when the Warner Brothers executives went into the little theater to watch the movie, this is an acclaimed film director, and apparently he was walking up and down waiting for their verdict, and they walked past him and completely ignored him, right? But they couldn't edit the film because of the agreement they had, contract they had. And then he died very, very soon after they'd watched it. And they took 25 minutes out of it that have never been seen. Now, you look at that, and that's one of the reasons it's a bit jerky in the way it's cut, because a massive part of it was taken out. But you look at what was left in and imagine what was taken out. And what he was revealing because he would have known from the inside that he worked, was the satanic networks that are dictating the world, that are driving the world into this this dystopia that we're experiencing now. And that's what's going on while we're sitting here, is this satanic realm is controlling human reality, and it's driving the direction towards a point where AI will become the human mind and will become human emotional response, because we are consciousness, and we are ultimately an expression of an infinite state of awareness. But what this matrix is about is isolating that consciousness within a perceptually manipulated sense of reality. So if you said to most people, and it is most people, overwhelmingly most people, who are you? They'd tell you their name, they'd tell you their life story, they'd tell you their sex, their race, whatever, their religion. And they would say either, I believe I'm just a human body, and when the human body dies, the lights go out and that's it. Or they'd tell you that I am subordinate to a judgmental God that I have to keep happy so I don't stoke the fires of hell. And they'd give you one of those two explanations. They wouldn't say, I am an expression of infinite awareness, infinite consciousness that's been entrapped in this fake reality that's controlling my perception of self-identity and reality, because that's the knowledge that's kept from us. And what happens is when you let these walls fall of limited perception, of unquestioning belief and rigid belief, and let your mind flow into the realms of all possibility, you expand your sense of awareness to the point eventually where it leaves the frequency band of this matrix, and you start tapping in to knowledge, insight, awareness that's beyond the frequency band of the simulation, the matrix. And
you can just have a 2CB and you get in there. I'm telling you, I was in Glastonbury in the field, I had a 2CB, and I could smell, I sniffed out other people. I walked to them with my nose almost like a wild animal, because my perception and my mind was expanded.
But when you're in some of these places and you let your mind go quiet, you can start to expand this awareness. You don't even have to let your mind go quiet. For me, it's about self-identity. That's absolutely crucial to everything.
Yeah, meditation and all that kind of thing.
But when I meditate, I fall asleep, and so I don't bother for a long time. But what I do is I daydream, which is a form of meditation. What you're doing is you're letting your mind go where it wants to go without limit. And self-identity is the critical thing for me. If you self-identify with being human, not as an experience, which you're obviously having, but as this is who I am, then you enter a sense of limitation, massive limitation. If you identify only with being human, then basically almost everything is impossible, not possible, can't happen. Or you take on the perception of I am this subordinate entity. I'm subordinate to some God who loves me but will send me to the fires of hell if he doesn't know what I do. Then you're in this sense of limitation, and this sense of limitation is within the walls, the frequency walls of the matrix.
Well, I found that out, David, because in COVID, obviously, with what went on and the lockdowns and stuff like that, you're a British passport holder. Yeah, I am. And I found, obviously, once they restricted travel, that I am not actually a free person. I am a subject that is owned by the royals effectively by the king or the queen at the time. And I want to get you onto that kind of royal bloodline. I know you've been vocal about that in the past, but I was, as I said earlier, speaking to Gareth, and I thought it was this, blue blood passed by inbreeding to cousins and other royal families,
right?
With the Saxe-Goldberg and Habsburg families.
Well, I can talk about all of that because it's all relevant to what we're talking about. But if you self-identify with being a state of awareness, just a state of being aware, a formless state of awareness that is part of an infinite flow of awareness, then that self-identity, that expansion of who I am, I'm not human, that's an experience. No, I'm not subject to some judgmental God. I am infinite awareness. That expansion of self-identity automatically expands you into these other levels of awareness, beyond the walls of the matrix, beyond the manipulation, beyond the control of perception and the manipulation of perception. And suddenly, that's what's going on. You see it, and you see it because you've tapped into that level that is beyond the manipulation. So the critical agenda is to keep people of this simulation, is to keep people in perceptual states that will keep them in frequency terms within the matrix. So they're fine if you believe in a judgmental God. They're fine if you believe that, life's a bitch and then you die and the lights go out. They're not okay if you realize that you're an infinite state of awareness, because then you're expanding beyond their realm of control. So the whole point of this AI human fusion is to...
We've seen about Neuralink and stuff like that.
Yeah. What a con man he is. And what the whole point of it is to have AI becoming the human mind and the human emotional response to keep you within the walls of the matrix, because perception equals frequency. And there's a guy in America, a Google executive called Ray Kurzweil, and he said some years ago now that by 2030, and we're coming up to 2026, by 2030, humans will be connected to artificial intelligence. And from that point, artificial intelligence will do more and more of human thinking until human thinking is basically negligible. And we'll become gods by fusing ourselves with artificial intelligence. And then you've got someone like Elon Musk, who's trying to pull in the skeptics, who positions himself as, AI could be the end of humanity, but what he's saying is, but it's inevitable that artificial intelligence will become more intelligent, more than humans. So if humans are not going to die out, I don't want it but if humans are not going to die out, we need to fuse with artificial intelligence. So you've got the Kurzweil Gates cell of we must fuse with humans because we'll be gods, and we've got the Musk cell of we must fuse with humans or we'll die out. But you can trust me, says Musk. I'm on your side. I'm a skeptic as well. No, you're not.
He has been good in terms of allowing a bit more freedom on his social media site than others.
Well, he has and he hasn't. You see, when you look at Twitter before Musk, you are looking at blatant censorship. I was thrown off it.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you say to people, when Twitter was doing that, it was controlled by the, quote, deep state. Oh, yeah, controlled by the deep state. Yeah, throw everybody off. Okay. So the deep state owned Twitter, controlled Twitter. Yeah. So why did they sell it to him then? Why did they sell it to not true, but a self-proclaimed free speech absolutist? They had control of it. They had everything they want. Why did they sell it to him?
Well, again, it's like this controlled opposition. It's like the Tucker Carlson when they go, well, his dad was in the CIA, and So when I look at that, I can't. There's lots of arguments for, lots of arguments against. I mean, you could easily formulate that opinion that they are fully, corrupted, and obviously there's a lot of evidence there. I want to get you back because it's important to me, because I always wanted you to answer this about the royal, because I've seen you say that they were. You saying the kind of reptile blood? I perceived it as blue blood and the interbreeding, but you're saying it's actually
the same
a bit
thing.
stronger than that.
Basically the same thing. See, first of all, you look at the history of royals, and they're supposed to have the divine right to rule, right? Well, who gave them that? Okay, well, the divine right to rule relates not to infinite awareness, however you want to describe the greater force consciousness. It relates to these entities, and what happens is there's certain bloodlines that have a hybrid nature. People say shape-shifting is impossible because you can't go from a solid body to a solid body. No, you can't. But that's not what's happening. If I'm looking at you now, your body is basically a field of information. And as we talked about earlier, my biological computer, just like Wi-Fi and computers, is reading and decoding that field of information into a reality of a physical body, ear, right? Just as inside the computer, the decoding is going on that turns the Wi-Fi field into a very different form on the screen. So this is constantly turning the simulation field into a apparently physical reality. And I'm looking here, you're looking here, and we're looking at outside things and what have you, but actually it's all in here. It's all going on in here, just as it's all going on in the computer. So if I look at you and you've got a human energy field, I'm decoding you as a human, as a physical human, a holographic human, in fact. But if you have these hybrid fields, obviously, most of the time in public, all the time in public, you are projecting the human field, right? And the reptilian or other non-human field, often reptilian, is kept in the back, beyond visible light. Anyone who sees you will see a human. But as it's been described to me so many freaking times, not least in satanic rituals and stuff, where they're among friends and they're among people who know the game, and bingo, they shapeshift. The other field, the other hybrid field, which is the reptilian field, takes over from the human field. Now, if you've got a human field and I'm decoding the human field, and then not a physical solid shift, but your hybrid field becomes the dominant field. To me, as an observer and a decoder, I'm seeing you change from a human to a non-human. But it's not happened physically, because there is no physical. It's happened in the decoding processes of my brain. I've been reading your human field, and now it's become a non-human field. And to me, you've just transformed physically from one field to another. Yeah, but you haven't.
Couldn't we argue, though, that that's what happens to people when they lose the plot, when they have psychotic episodes, that they see, this person's turned into the devil, or this person, people who go through psychosis do often, show these signs to say, I've walked in and my nan's turned into the devil, or whatever it is.
Yeah, there is a level that can happen, but what happens to the brain in these different states of awareness? It might be through ayahuasca, or it might be through other changes in the brain. The brain starts decoding reality in a different way.
Yeah, but that's only if you're corpus mentis. If you're not if something's happened, like you've had a bang on the head, or you've got some kind of trauma going on where you've got a psychological episode, and you're getting sectioned or whatever, then imagine people say and they've seen things. And
Yeah.
people have shapeshifted into things.
Yeah, but I'll tell you this. There's an area of psychology outside of the mainstream orthodoxy that has come to the conclusion that what are called, not in every case, of course not, but what are called psychological states that are considered people that should be put in mental homes or something. What's actually happening is what they're saying they're seeing, they're actually seeing. You know, if someone came along and said, I saw this person change into a reptile, immediately you'd go, well, you're mad. Obviously, you've got some psychotic problem going on. But what if it's actually real? And what I've done, because I've been doing this for so long, I'm coming into my 36th year, there's been such a layer upon layer upon layer upon layer of evidence that you're way beyond the point where you go, this is real. It doesn't mean that other people don't have psychotic states where they see things that aren't there or whatever. But in this foundation thing of the shape-shifting reptilians, and also, you know, one of the things that I do is I look at ancient legends and ancient accounts, and I play them across modern experience and modern science and modern psychology or whatever. And what I'm looking for is patterns of agreement. Like I'll look at religions and I'll look at ancient legends and shamanistic streams of knowledge. And okay, you're going to see patterns of disagreement. Fine. But what are the patterns of agreement? And it's amazing what you find. There's a pattern of agreement across the religions and the ancient cultures that there is a non-human force operating outside of the realm of the human scene that is manipulating human society. And they give them endless names in different cultures.
The Egyptians have got, obviously, weird-shaped heads and different gods, obviously the Anukai or whatever, the Anukai or whatever. So there is a lot of, like, I'm looking at it going, are you saying to me that you believe that the royal family are reptilian blood, or they are a kind of hybrid species?
Yeah, this is